of your boldness? A life without courage is no life, because you cannot overcome obstacles without the grace of God.
And very important question. How is Bitcoin linked to blockchain? When I raise this question, you can understand Bitcoin is different, blockchain is different. But do they have don't do they have no relations among them? No, they are very closely related, but they are not the same. That is what I mean to say. In one way, Bitcoin played an important, vital role in emergence of blockchain. We will visit the history where I'll try to explain you how blockchain or Bitcoin played a role in emergence of blockchain. Some quick fact: recently, Walmart was able to reduce the food tracing process from 6 days to just 2 seconds by leveraging blockchain. Then you can understand the importance of blockchain. The job which was done for 6 days were reduced to the tune of mere 2 seconds. Blockchain is expected to disrupt banking and financial industry soon. Experts claim banks could save amount of 8 to 12 billion annually by leveraging blockchain technology. Even most of the banks, Western banks, have started adopting blockchain in their process. Even though the irony is, blockchain is tipped to be the enemy of banking system, but nowadays we have come to the stage where banks have started embracing this technology. We will see how all these things are happening around us. And this Gartner survey, I have got 2 Gartner survey. According to Gartner, blockchain-based projects are expected to add more than $316 billion of value to the business by 2026. It's a very huge amount. And again, another Gartner survey says by 2023, blockchain will support the global movement and tracking of 2 trillion of goods and services annually. So you may be wondering, what is the specialty of this Gartner? Any IT professional or any IT enthusiast, if you want to know what is the survey which has been taken in our area, particularly computing programs, or what is the processor which will dominate the world in the next decade, which technology will give you more job. If you have such kind of questions in your mind, you can always go to Google and you can search for Gartner survey of top 10 leading languages across the globe today. It will throw you, I mean, it's all based on scientific analysis and surveys. It's not merely throwing something out of blue. They have done a thorough survey and they give you the survey results. It's more like we have been used to election results prediction during election time, right? Some survey companies will be there, they'll be taking the data, they apply the statistics and they give you the answer. Similarly, Gartner is the survey company which closely works with technological revolution or evolution which is happening across the globe. So Wikipedia, what is the Wikipedia definition of a blockchain? Blockchain is a continuously growing list of record called blocks which are linked and secured using cryptography. This is what point to be noted. When I say blockchain, blockchain is a combination of different technologies. In one way, that is that's why people feel that it is a bit complex technology to understand, because it inherits different technologies inside it. For say cryptography, particularly in cryptography, we will be talking about hashing algorithms in cryptography. Other than that, they also use ECC algorithm, private key and public key concepts. Distributed computing. In distributed computing, we will see distributed peer-to-peer system. It plays a very vital role in blockchain existence. and then you have consensus algorithm or consensus mechanism. Wherever you have more than one people, we have to come to a consensus. For example, you take a important decision need to be taken in a college administration. How will they come to consensus? They may conduct a management committee meeting. Based upon the majority of the people view, they may come to a concession. For example, they want to decide how many marks they should award as an internal. What we normally do, we conduct a meeting, we get the major consensus. If what is the number, what is the mark which majority of the people say, we may accept that. Or the leader may be there. The leader may say this is the amount of mark which we should consider as an internal. We go with it. So consensus algorithm across the world, they work in two concepts. One is lottery based concept, another one is voting based concept. So consensus is very important whenever you have more than one people involved in any task. So we will throw light on consensus algorithm also. And finally, we will also look at transactions, or we call it as a shared ledgers or distributed ledger techniques, DLT. So basically, why do we need a blockchain? We need blockchain for initiating and holding transactions. What kind of transactions? It may be of any transaction. With respect to bank, it may be money transfer, credit, debit, and so on. With respect to an academic example, it may be the marks of the students, scores of students, or the faculty score, or to what extent we have got scores in NBA or NAC, and so on. So any kind of transaction, or for example, a mere transaction. I'm sending a mail to Kabilan, it is a transaction. So anything can be stored in the form of a shared ledger here in blockchain. So these are all the 4 important technical cosmos of blockchain which we are going to throw light today. What is blockchain? So before even coining of this term blockchain, in the year 1991, there came a paper which was authored by Stuart Haber and Scott Stornetta. What they did was, that was the paper for first ever time in the world which talked about time stamping of digital documents. Imagine, today we say, even for the recent Satankulam incident, we say if the CCTV would have been placed there, then we could have known the truth. So, I mean, not near CCTV. If the CCTV is capturing the images, you people know that lot of crimes are detected by using the CCTV footages and the time at which the person crosses the particular place. For example, if X is charged with a particular crime, and if we look at the footage, X is crossing that place after the crime has actually happened, then we can come to a conclusion whether there is a possibility that he would have impacted the crime or not. So digital document, time stamping of digital document is a very, very important concept. For example, let's take a very common example. Bank is, I'm transacting 5,000 rupees to my friend. So once I get the confirmation message, I know at what time the amount has been really transferred to my friend. If it is through NEFT, it may take some time. If it is through IMPS, it may be a bit soon, and so on. So timestamp plays a very important role. Even a very normal scenario. Let's assume that as a faculty, I'm sending a mail to my student, and student claims that he has not received the mail. When we check, so I know at what time I have sent the mail. So time plays very critical role in all kind of digital applications. And these two gentlemen in 1991 came up with this time stamping of digital documents. Not only that, if you happen to look at that paper, you will know a lot of important concepts what we talk today in blockchain were present in their paper. So with the due credit to Stuart Haber and Scott Stornetta, we will move to the next important hero of the blockchain. Why I say him as a hero of the blockchain? He was the person, or this is the paper after which the blockchain came into existence. Or I would rather put it in this way, after the emergence of release of this paper, blockchain got its rebirth. So that's how, that is a real statement, because a paper titled Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, was published as a white paper. I'll say what is white paper in a while. It was published as a white paper by Satoshi Nakamoto. Who is this Satoshi Nakamoto? till today, nobody knows who is Satoshi Nakamoto. It's a very big suspense story. You can Google and see. A lot of people are behind finding out who is Satoshi Nakamoto. For some time, let's not worry about who is he. We will see what he has said. So he proposed a paper called Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, which talked about eliminating the centralized banking authority. Now you can imagine why I said that the Bitcoin or the blockchain was initially seemed to be the candidate which was against the banking system, but now banks have started leveraging it. We will also see how they are leveraging it. So this paper talked about eliminating the banking system. There will be no centralized authority. If I want to give 100 rupees to my friend, I will directly give 100 rupees to him. I'm not going to use any banking transaction, or I'm not going to lean on any banking or centralized authority. I can understand you all will be surprised to know how can you eliminate the banking authority. We will see in the next coming slides. Remember this name, Satoshi Nakamoto. In the year 2008, the paper was released and blockchain emerged. We have to also look at the geopolitical issue which was happening in the 2008. Mostly the people of my age group in 40s, you would have realized that, or if the younger people, if you have not known about the speciality of the 2008, the first economic slowdown after globalization happened in the year 2001. You all know, because of the Twin Tower clash. But the impact of that economic slowdown was okay, bearable. The companies or the service sectors were able to come out of it within 2 years. Wherein the second economic slowdown hit us in the year 2008, where it was very worst. Because in West, particularly in West, what happened was people were, they lost their jobs. They were not in a position to repay their loans, what they have taken from the bank. For example, let's imagine that David is a person. He is living in USA. He has taken a loan from the bank because of, you can also relate it to the current situation. He has lost his job. He doesn't have any money in his hands, so he was not able to repay his loan towards the bank. So what will happen to the bank? If there is one candidate, if he is not able to pay back, then bank will be able to resist. What happens if 1,000 candidates, 10,000 candidates, lakh candidates who have taken the loans have not started repaying the loan back? So it will hit the bank very worst. So it was the scenario where banks started taking mortgage of the properties, which actually doesn't come under the bank's purview. To make it clear, for example, let's take again the example of David. David has taken a loan from the bank. He has taken a loan for his house, which he has bought or which he has built in New York. Now, to compensate the loss, what banks did was, they took the house which was actually built in New York. That is ethical. Banks can take up that. But instead of that, they also took the other property which he has not mortgaged towards the loan. For example, David, let's assume that David also has a house in Washington. The bank took house which was in Washington also, and they released these two houses for auction. Whatever money they generated out of it, they took it, and from that they were able to repay the loan debit which was in the account of David. So this happened, this was very commonly happening in the year 2008, particularly in the West. And now you can relate this. There was a paper which talks about eliminating the banking system, and there was a scenario where banks have proven to be villain for the people. Now you can relate these two, come at the time, come at the man. So that was the time where this paper was released, and soon people started looking at this paper with curiosity, because this paper talks about no banking system. Now I think you can understand the context when why blockchain or Bitcoin became popular in particularly 2008 or 9. But again, by saying all these things, I'm not against any banking system. I'm also a good user of bank. I have got all sort of loans from bank. So what I'm trying to say is, there is some sort of transparency lackage in the banking system even today. Very quite common example: if you deposit your money into the bank will not reveal where they have further deposited your money. They will give you interest. For example, you deposit 5 lakh in a fixed deposit, banks will never reveal you where they have further invested. You have to be happy by getting the interest. So this is the lack of transparency what I'm talking about. Still, it also exists in our current banking system. So that was the period where a paper which talked about alternate or no banking system, and obviously it got popular because people were affected by the traditional banking system, which was taking their properties without their notice. And internet and blockchain. So this is one a common scenario where people tend to predict whatever internet has done to our text. You know what internet has done to our text: WhatsApp, Telegram, Facebook, Twitter, and so on. What internet has done to images: Google Photos, Instagrams, Facebook Photos, YouTube, and so on. So now it has completely revolutionized the way in which we look at the images. Programs, you all are aware of GitHubs. So now it's all democratized. All programs, if you want to claim that you are a good programmer, then you can post your code in the GitHub. Based on the number of downloads, the program's rating will be incurred. Video, you all know what is the internet, what internet has done to video. YouTube's and other online learning platforms, they have started becoming a threat for the traditional colleges and traditional universities. So in near future, we may see graduates coming out of virtual universities. Blockchain. So similarly, they say blockchain will also change the way in which we use the money, change the way in which we negotiate the contracts. When I say contract, I'm talking about the normal contract. Whenever we do a job, we get into a contract, we agree upon a common rule and we start the work, right? So the similar contract. Patent. How are we going to store the patent? Assets. How are we going to track the assets? By using blockchain. So it is poised to predict, it is poised to predict that blockchain will revolutionize the way in which we are going to use the money, contract, patent, and asset. And I'm not saying this. This is being said by Ginni Rometty, CEO of IBM. And this is a very, very important slide in this complete webinar. This slide talks about when you should not think of using a blockchain. See, it has become quite common and obvious among our people that whenever we have a new technology, we tend to use that. We have seen people using machine learning algorithm for data which will not justify the usage of those algorithms. I am trying to say that when you have a very minimal data, you can solve it by using mere Excel. You need not to go for a machine learning algorithm. Likewise, there are scenarios where you should not think of using blockchain. Since blockchain is available, it is not mandatory that you should apply it over all applications. The first criteria. Whenever you have any fraudulent, or if you predict that any fraudulent activity can happen in a transaction or in an application, then you consider blockchain as a candidate. Second, whenever in any of the application you feel that there is a role for a middleman or intermediaries, whenever there are intermediaries attached with any kind of application, you can think of using a blockchain. Throughput. Whenever, see, this is a very, again, a controversial parameter. In a traditional normal transactions by using Visa or MasterCard, the number of transactions which happens per second is around somewhere around 20 million or 30 million. Wherein even today, the Bitcoin or blockchain transactions are not scaled up to that level. Still, they are struggling. So whenever you want a formidable and if scalable throughput, you can rely on the blockchain. So if you want very high throughput or number of transactions need to be very high per second, then you till a blockchain is not a candidate. Stable data. Wherever you want the data to be stable, you can rely on a blockchain. So these are all the scenarios where you can consider blockchain as an application. This is what I was talking about. We saw taking mortgage of the property, but other than that, blockchain can also be considered in the scenario where the normal banking transactions, they levy huge transaction fee over us. You can see JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo, they earned more than 6 billion from ATM and overdraft fees. And recently you would have heard about the SBI. If you don't maintain a minimum bank balance, you are charged fine, and through that they earned around 100 to 150 crores across the country. And this was the financial crisis which I was talking in the introduction slide. You can see there the economic slowdown rise up to $11 trillion worldwide. This led to a huge downfall. That's where the banks started taking mortgage of the properties which were not under their control. Banks have become synonymous with crisis and crashes due to depression and fractional reserve banking. We have discussed about this. Coming to the point. What is a traditional transaction? How does a traditional transaction happens? Bob wants to buy a cake from Alice Bakery. He needs to pay Alice in advance. It's a very common thing. Bob wants to order a cake for some birthday party. Alice will send the goods to Bob once she has received the money or a proper proof that she will receive it. So when she will deliver the cake, either she will have a confidence that he will give the money, or once she receives the money, she will deliver the good. How does the traditional transaction happens here? Bob pays on PayPal. This is the best example. So PayPal comes into picture. PayPal queries the Bob's Visa, and Visa queries Bob's banking account, and Bob's bank transfers the amount. Alice Bank receives the amount. PayPal confirms the payment. PayPal notifies Alice, and now Alice sends the cake to Bob. This is the traditional transaction. You recall, I said you can think of using blockchain whenever there is an intermediaries available here. So the real source is Bob, the target is Alice. You can see how many number of intermediaries or middlemen who are playing a role in this transaction. Even if you eliminate PayPal here, still Visa will come into picture, still bank is there. So in this classical example, you have three intermediaries. One is PayPal, one is Visa, and the third one is Bob's bank. This is the problem with the traditional transaction. So all these intermediaries, they are not going to merely play a role. As we saw earlier, they will also incur a fee from you. They will incur a transaction fee from you. For example, if you transact money through IMPS, you have to pay 5 rupees excess. So imagine, again, taking a Onion movie example. One person paying 5 rupees, it's not a big deal. Per second, you know how many transactions are happening. 100 people making 100 transactions, so 100 into 5. 1,000 people, 1,000 transactions, 1,000 into 5, and so on, right? So imagine per day how much money the banks merely earn out of these transactions. So how can we eliminate this? How blockchain works? Bob wants to send money to Alice over a blockchain network. Let's see how he is sending. See here, Bob wants to send money to Alice. That is the scenario. Transaction is represented online as a block. Now we are going to create a block for this transaction. It is represented in form of a block. Every block is broadcast to every party on the network. Let's imagine today the participants, including me, everybody, whoever participants are there in today's Zoom call, we are forming an online network. So I want to transfer money to a person available in this network. So when I start transacting, all of you who are in this call will know that I am transacting so and so to so and so. Those in the network approve the validity of the transaction. Let's take today, if administrator or the organizer or the host is the one who is going to act like a validator, so they have to validate. They have to validate the transaction. Once it is validated, after validation, the block is added to the chain. Once that block is validated, it will be added to the chain. So they become member in our Zoom call. Alice receives the money from Bob. So ultimately, Alice receives the money. So what we have done here is, we have eliminated the PayPal, we have eliminated the Visa. We have not stopped there. Friends, you can look at this slides carefully. We have also eliminated the banks. This is what I'm talking about. We are eliminating the bank and we are going for a no banking system. That is what blockchain actually advocates. Let's see. How does a blockchain work step by step? You can see here, user request for a transaction. Block representing the transaction is created. Block is broadcasted to all the nodes in the network. All the nodes validate the block and the transaction. See here, it's not necessary that all the nodes should validate. We can, again I said about leader or voting concept, right? So here we can designate a person. whoever is the host, he will decide whether to add that block or not. The block is added to the chain. Okay, then now the block becomes a member of our chain. The transaction gets verified and executed. That's all. This is how the transactions actually happens. Now we will see slowly what is a block. Block, you can see here I have represented. Block consists of a data, previous hash. I will also explain you about hash in a forthcoming slides. Right now, imagine there is a hash, and you can see here fingerprint is used as an indication of a block, simply because the hash value are unique for each and every hash. As fingerprints are unique for each and every human being, here we are trying to create a individual identity for each and every block. Now you can recall, I said about timestamping of digital document. We are going further more, and we are trying to create an individual identity for a particular block. How am I going to create an individual identity for a particular block? I'm going to use a hashing algorithm. What is this hashing algorithm will do? This hashing algorithm will take input of your data and its previous hash value. When I say previous hash, it is the hash value of the previous block.
Excuse me, sir. So this is Kabilan.
Yeah, Salim.
There is a question from Mr. Senthil Kumar. He has this question. Actually, who creates the block, host or third-party company? Yeah, that is the first question. And second question from Mr. Muhammad. But indeed, the bank will be involved for transaction or not?
No, I'm talking about block creation. Blocks will be created by the people who are participating in the blockchain. For example, I said 98 or 100 of us are in this call, right? Hello.
Sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
100 of us are there. This one among these 100 people can create a block. Okay. So the validation, say for example, if you are the host of this meeting, you have to approve that block. You will check. Sir. You will check. After the checking, you can insert the block into the blockchain network. Banking system, we are eliminating the banking system here because the transactions will happen directly. That is the specialty of this blockchain network. Yes, this is with respect to application. I'll also throw you some lot of other applications where we can think of the same scenario. Okay, sir. Okay. So he convinced. Block can be created by any participant. In the due course of the lecture, I'll show you how a block is actually created. Okay, continuing.
Yes, sir.
Data and previous hash. The data will be there, and the hash of the previous block. The current data of the block and the hash of the previous block will be fed to a hash generating algorithm, and that generator will generate the hash of the particular block. See, for example, if I'm handling this block, for this block, hash value will be created by feeding the data of the respective block plus the previous hash value of the previous block. These two will be fed as an input to this. These two will be fed as an input to the hash generating algorithm. That hash generating algorithm will generate the hash for the current block. The hash here nearly indicates the current hash which is generated for the respective block. You can see here, Genesis block is the first ever block which is created in the eternity of the blockchain. Let's imagine today we are going to form a blockchain and we are going to create a blockchain network. Whatever block we create at the first instance will be called as a Genesis block, and throughout the entire life cycle of the blockchain, Genesis block never changes. And quite obvious, I said about previous hash. This previous hash is nothing but hash value of the previous block. Since Genesis block is the first ever block, it will not have any hash value. Obviously, it will be 0 because this is the first block ever we have created. So it will not have any value. Its value will be 0. So the 0 will be fed and the respective data of the block. When I say data are nothing but the transactions. For example, I said about transactions earlier. It could be a sharing of a Word document, or it could be a property document, or it could be a registered marriage certificate, or it could be a mark sheet, or it could be a bank transaction. Anything can be occupied in this data. So whenever a data is available for a block, the data of that respective block and the hash value of the previous block, both will be added and they will be fed to a hash generating algorithm, and that algorithm will generate the hash value for the current block. You can see here, when I say previous hash, you can understand from this second block. The block 2, when we generate the hash value of the block 2, what we do here, the respective data of the block 2 will be taken. You can see here, we are taking the previous hash value. This is the hash value generated for the block 1 that is fed as an input to this block 2. So the data of block 2 and the previous hash value, both will be fed as an input to generate the hash value of the block 2. And likewise, you can see this cycle keeps on continuing. For block 3, we take the hash value generated for the block 2, that is the previous hash value, and the respective data of the block 3, we put them together and we generate a hashing algorithm. Don't worry, I'll explain you how these hashes are generated. Right now, this is the concept. That's why we use this symbol. So we say them that they are cryptographically linked together. They are not merely linked. Probably this diagram may also recall you about the linked list what we have seen in data structure.
Hello, sir. Once again, it's me. So there is a query from Mr. Karunanidhi. Okay. He just not convinced with the Zoom meeting example what you have stated. And he asked somehow bank is also involved in the transaction. How
Bank
can
will not be
eliminate a transaction in this?
To send you 100 rupees. So that's what I say. He has to wait until the lecture gets over.
Okay.
Because
another one question, sir. Yeah, I just informed him via the chat. Okay. So in forthcoming slides, you may have a very clear picture about this. And another one, Mr. Shilpu Das. He asked, is blockchain legally approved in India or not?
no, blockchain is legally approved. There are a lot of startup companies available in blockchain. His question should be redesigned as whether Bitcoin is approved or not. Bitcoin is officially approved by Supreme Court of India, but RBI has gone against that. So Bitcoin is not officially allowed in India, but blockchain is allowed in India. That's why I say they have to wait until the session gets over. Here we will eliminate the banking system. Cryptocurrency system works in that way. You can, I would suggest him to go and check the website blockchain.com, where if possible I will also show you at the end. For example, let's imagine that I want to give 1,000 rupees to Kabilan. How will I do that? I will have a key. Kabilan will also have a key. All the participants in this system, Bitcoin system. I'm not saying it as a blockchain. That's why I want people to understand blockchain and Bitcoin are not same. They are relatives, but they are not same. They are different. Bitcoin works in a property where each and every participant who wants to become a member of a Bitcoin system will be given a 2 key, one private key and another public key. Whenever I want to transact a money to a person, for example, Balaji wants to send money to Kabilan. How this transaction can be initiated is, Kabilan will share his public key and I will be sharing money through my private key. So the money will be deposited to Kabilan directly. The people who are available in the chain will know that something has been transferred from the key 1 to key 2, because here the identities will not be revealed. The privacy will be maintained. So nobody will know this is Balaji or that is Kabilan. So whenever I want to transact money to Kabilan, he has to share his private key. Whenever I want to, share his public key. Whenever I want to initiate money sharing, I will transfer it through my private key to his public key. From his public key, he will be taking it to his private key and he will be realizing the money. This is an alternate system. I'm not talking about a typical banking system here. I'm not talking about money transaction which happens through your normal Western Union or normal bank-to-bank transfer. This is alternate cryptocurrency system which I'm giving you as an example. I hope I have cleared it. Shall I proceed, Kabilan?
Yes, sir. Please go on.
No, have I made it clear? So probably once we go deep, they will also understand.
Yes, sir.
Okay. now I think probably you can understand the how the Genesis block is created, how the blocks are further created. That's why even in this example, I said you can also store your marriage registration certificate. Leave out money. You can store anything here. So now we will show, we will see we will throw some light on SHA algorithm. What is SHA-256? SHA stands for Secured Hash Algorithm. This algorithm was given to the society by NSA, National Security Agency of US. What is the specialty of this algorithm? Whatever input you give to this algorithm, so you can see here, we all know, I said this example earlier, the unique feature or unique identification of a human being, one such unique identification is your fingerprint. Because they say 1 among 60 million people, there is a chance 1 among 60 million people may have the duplication of fingerprints. That is the stat. So we consider that as a unique identification. Like this, we are also trying to find a unique identification for a digital document. For your PDF, for your video file, for your audio file, I'm going to create a unique identification so as to secure it. How this SHA-256 works, you feed anything as an input, what it will does is, it will convert that input into a 64-bit hexadecimal character representation. So it will be a 64-bit hexadecimal character representation. You can see here 2A89B. So it is a hexadecimal representation. The size of this representation will be 64-bit hexadecimal character. So now you can very well see why 256 came. 64 into 4, 4 bits. So 64 into 4, it is 256. So that's how SHA-256 is termed. So far, there is no literature or there is no practical example where SHA-256 has been broken. So till now. But there are a lot of other improvised algorithms also available in the market. After SHA-256, NSA came up with SHA-512 and SHA-3 also. Now you can imagine, whatever document we are going to store in blockchain, we are not going to store them in its original form. We are going to convert them into a SHA-256 hexadecimal representation. So they will not be merely stored in the same format. Wherever the user looks into the blockchain, he will be able to see only the hash value of the document or the input, whatever you have fed. Now you can see how this hashing algorithm works. You fed any arbitrary length, whether it is Hello World or whether it is a complete book of a Dan Brown or whether it is a Darbar movie or whether it is an audio song, whatever you feed as an input, the hashing algorithm will convert that into a fixed length of 64-bit hexadecimal representation. I'll show you a small demo here. Are you able to see the screen? Kabilan, are you able to see the screen?
Yes, sir, it's visible, sir.
So you can see here, this demo is not, it's not made by me. The credit to Anders Brown. Anders Brown is an MIT researcher. He has developed a demo for blockchain and he has also put it in the GitHub for free. You can go to Google, you can type Anders demo on blockchain, you'll get this screen. What I'm going to do now is, I said about hashing algorithm, right? So we'll see how a SHA-256 hashing algorithm works. I'm just typing, today is Monday. I'll type all small characters. Today is Monday. You can see what is the hash generated for it. It starts with EEC and ends with 97. Okay. I'm going to type something else. I'm just going to type some longer, I'm just typing some words. You can see here, okay. For even a lengthier line also, it will be only a 64-bit hexadecimal representation. You can see here, whatever you feed as an input, whatever you feed as a data, it will be represented only as a 64-bit hexadecimal representation. Now, can you imagine? This is how we are creating a hash for each and every block. That block will consist of this data as well the previous hash. They both will be fed to this hashing algorithm. This hashing algorithm will give you the fixed length hash value. Okay. This is what I said. Why we go for a hashing algorithm? Hashing algorithms are considered as an unique identifier for a digital document. There are 5 requirements of a hashing algorithm. Yes,
hello, sir. There is a question from my side. Okay, I have one doubt previously.
Yeah.
if blockchain, okay, when we implement blockchain in banking sectors, by the concept of blockchain, we can completely eliminate the corruption. For example, if I just going to register a land which cost around 1 crore rupee, if I
No, I'll
try to register it for, 50 lakhs for the,
about that.
okay,
I understand what you are trying to say about the transparency of blockchain will eliminate the corruption. I accept.
yeah,
Even cryptocurrency, I'll say you one story about cryptocurrency. For example, let's say in cryptocurrency transaction, I'm sending 1 rupee to you.
okay,
So that will be whenever that money, for example, you are sending that 1 rupee to your brother,
okay,
and he is sending that 1 rupee to his friend.
okay,
All these transactions will be tracked.
okay,
Okay, now you can imagine why government are against the cryptocurrencies, because
mm,
of this transparency. For example, you have given 10 rupees or 10 cryptocurrency as a bribe to a officer.
okay,
So you have transacted 10 rupees to him. See, we know that it is the cryptocurrency tracking will not say whether it is a bribe or not, but
okay,
it is a standing evidence. You
yes
need
sir,
not
yes
to.
sir,
So
mm,
from this, you will be able to know where, when you take up a particular currency, you will be able to trace back and find out what is its origin.
okay.
So it introduced complete transparency. All these transactions are stored in the form of a Merkle tree in a cryptocurrency transaction.
Yes, sir. Now it's very clear. Why I asked this question in the sense, Ms. Shilpa Das asked me privately about this one. Okay, whether it going to replace a bank, and for example, she asked like this, why it
Yeah.
is not implemented in India? Will it be implemented in India or not? That's why I asked this question. Here we are not going to deal with the actual money. Instead of that, we are going for some Bitcoin method of cryptocurrencies. So it will be very clear. I think she is convinced.
Yeah, okay. But the problem with the Bitcoin, again, we have to say the demerit of Bitcoin. Why
Yes, sir.
India is banning Bitcoin is
Mm,
now, see, the problem is Bitcoins are equated in US dollars. That is, usually it happens, the market happens, or every evaluation happens in US dollar. For example, if you want to buy a Bitcoin today, probably, I don't know, I'll check the website. It may
okay.
cost you around 10,000 US dollars. So if you invest that money, it is more like it's more like purchasing an IPO, more like purchasing a share in the share market. You
Yes, sir.
invest some bitcoins today, it value may be 100 bitcoins to $10,000, $10,000 to Indian money. You can imagine how much it will come. So tomorrow, if the Bitcoin value goes down,
Mm,
so you have got a same 100 bitcoins.
mm,
10 to, I mean, it has gone to 7,000 USD, and subsequently your money value will go down. In this case, or if somebody has hacked the Bitcoin or hacked the exchange of the Bitcoin, and
mm.
your money value may drastically fall down, you don't have any legal mechanism to go to the court and file a case.
Yes, sir.
To live with it. And my kind suggestion and my kind request to the people who are listening to this lecture, don't get into cryptocurrency transaction. There are a lot of brokers available in Chennai and Mumbai. Particularly, they target young IT professionals. So, lot of our professionals, we are thinking that this has not evolved into our society like Kabila. No, it is not true.
Yes,
Lot
sir.
of suicides happen because of this cryptocurrency, even in Chennai.
Yes, sir.
So because the only challenge here is they have to use international credit card for transfer.
Mm,
Use international credit cards, they
yes, sir.
tend to lose the money. Sometimes they earn money out of it. When they lose very big. 30 lakhs or 40 lakhs will be the debt which they will not be able to recover. So lots of forgeries are also happening in name of cryptocurrency. I sincerely plead to people not to involve in any kind of Bitcoin or cryptocurrency transaction. My adventure or my journey towards this cryptocurrency or blockchain is towards academic projects or towards leveraging this blockchain in other areas. You have other areas where you can leverage blockchain. I'll show you.
Yes, sir.
So shall I continue?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you can ask me like why SHA-256 should be considered as a algorithm. Currently, both Ethereum and Bitcoin uses SHA-256. You can also come up with a new algorithm. This is also one area of research where people can take it up. But whatever algorithm you come up, it should satisfy some 5 requirements. What is the first requirement? It should be one way. For example, when you feed the input, any digital input or any input to the system, it will generate 64-bit hexadecimal hash value. But by looking at the hexadecimal value, you should not be able to visualize, or you should not be able to revert back and find out what is the original document. That is what one way is all about. For example, if I give a photo as an input to the hashing algorithm, it will generate a 64-bit hexadecimal value. But by looking at the hexadecimal value, nobody should be able to revert back and find out that it is a photo. So it should not be available. I'll again show you a demo. Again, I'll go back. Today is Monday. Okay, this is the example which I took. You can see here, as a user, as a participant, you will only look at this hash value, that is EE, CA345 and so on. By merely looking at this hash value, I hope you will not be able to understand what I have written in the data. This is what one way is all about. What is the next important characteristic? It is deterministic. Deterministic means whenever I feed the same input, the hash value generated should be the same. It should not vary. For example, you again take this today is Monday. I'm just adding a small full stop here. See what happens to the entire hash value. You can see here the entire hash value has changed. It is not changing linearly, it is changing completely. That is, you can see it started with EE earlier, now it is starting with 90. You can, again, I'm removing the full stop. You can see it is deterministic because for the same input, it will generate the same hash value. If I include a comma, the entire hash value changes. So I'll relate this. I will relate all these properties with the example what we are seeing, what we have seen already. It is deterministic. That's what I have also shown here. If you add +1, if you make slight variation also, it will completely change. Fast computation, yes, we are dealing with internet transaction. It should be fast. So we have to find a balance between the fast transaction and the security. Avalanche effect. This is again a very, very important aspect of a hashing algorithm. So avalanche effect is, you know how avalanches are created in an iceberg scenario. Even for a small, let's imagine a mountain climber. Even for a small wrong footing, he may fall down from the mountain. Or even a small movement of ice can trigger a glaciers to move down, and it may result in an avalanche effect. So this is also we have seen, even for a smallest change, even if I change this Monday, the M as a capital 1, you can see here the entire hash has changed. This is what I'm talking about, avalanche effect, because whenever there is a small change, there will be a complete change in the hash. It is not linear to the kind of change what I make. If I make a small change, the value will slightly change, or if I make a big change, the value will completely change. No, it's not the story. Even for a slightest change, the entire hash value will be changed. Withstand collisions. This is also an important requirement of the SHA algorithm. See, thankfully, till today, we have not encountered any duplication in SHA-256, but there is a likely chance when the internet grows or when number of persons involved in the blockchain transaction keep on increasing, if there is a chance or if there is a likely chance that duplication occurs, how are we going to handle it by our hashing algorithm or any cryptographic algorithm? So with respect to hashing SHA-256 algorithm, they use a pigeonhole principle. It is a damn old mathematical concept which came into existence in the year 1970. Pigeonhole principle, as you can see here, there are 9 holes, and if 9 pigeons comes, then it is very well accommodated. What happens if the 10th pigeon comes? So if the 10th pigeon comes, no other go, we have to accommodate them in any of the hole. So we have to accommodate them. That is what, that is the concept which inspires how to handle collisions in case if they occur in SHA-256 calculation. But it is very, very unlikely to happen. But we have to be very careful. If somebody wantedly create a same hash value, for example, this is the doc. If someone creates a fake document and they try to create the same hash value, then it will put us into a trouble. This we have to see very seriously. We have some methodology to overcome this. We will see in the due course of the time. Now I'm going to talk about immutable ledger. So why blockchains are said to be immutable? Now you know hashing algorithm, how hash actually functions. Now go back and let's see this. I have this Genesis block. I have created by using its hash value, I have created a second block. Now, in case if I go and change data which is available in the second block, what will happen? When I touch the data in the second block, definitely the hash value generated for that block will get changed. Am I right? Because you have seen that it is very sensitive. Even a slightest change will lead to the complete change in the hash value. So when I change any data, when I tamper the data in the second block, its hash value will get changed. Once its hash value gets changed, what happens? The previous hash value of the block 3 was not the same one. Now the hash value has changed. Now it will understand that it is not the same previous hash value. So this connection will get lost. This connection will get lost. So as a viewer, as an observer, if you look at the chain, you will understand that something has gone wrong in this block. I can understand that you will not be able to find out the fault, but we can ensure that something has gone wrong in this block. This is how we are trying to make the blocks immutable in nature. Whenever you touch any data inside the block, the hash value gets changed. Once the hash value gets changed, the next hash value, the connection to the next hash value get disturbed. This is how the blocks become immutable in the traditional blockchain. Okay, now we will see a typical example. I will explain you. Kapilin was, he was knowingly or unknowingly talking about the house registration. I'll take the same example. In the Indian context or in any global context, what is the proof that what is the procedure to buy a house? Let's imagine that I have a money in my hand. I want to buy this house. What I do, I pay the money to the vendor or to the owner of the house or to the promoter of that house. Once I pay the money, I'll be given a deed which says that I'm the owner of it. What is the form in which I get the deed today? It is nothing but the paper. So colloquially we call it as a patta or patram, right? The house registration patram. So that is the proof. See, I cannot go to a street and I cannot claim that a particular house is mine. If I say this house is mine, immediately what will you ask me? You will ask me, where is the document? So documents are the sole authority for ownership of any property in the global scenario. So is that property, how this property is validated? This property should be validated by any bureaucracy or a government agency. With respect to our Indian context, registration office or register office is the place where we go and register our property. When I say I'm selling the property, I go to the register office, I register that, and the owner or the person who buys that property also registers it. So that is the document, and that is the document which stands as a proof for any property titlement. Now imagine, we all know all our property transactions are stored in the form of paper ledgers. Imagine if any natural calamity occurs, or imagine some fire accident occurs in the office. What will happen to our documents? They will all be lost. Am I right? We cannot encounter natural disasters. We never thought we will be sitting in a house for 3-4 months. So even in Chennai, typical Chennai, if you look back, in 2015 we had a huge flood. We never imagined that such a flood will attack Chennai. And apparently the flood washed away a lot of registered documents or a lot of government office documents. And quite often you would have heard about fire accidents happening in the government offices due to its structure and its, since most of the government offices are very old. What happens to those documents if we are lost? That is one scenario. Second scenario, since they are stored in the form of traditional documents, there is a likely chance that anybody can intrude and tamper the document. It is also quite obvious. Many of us have heard about the stories of documents being forged in our land or for our house. And World Bank actually says that 70% of the world titlement is in a fix. They are not very clear. Don't think that these kind of forged documents are only the case in developing countries like India. Even the well-developed countries like Germany, UK, USA, they say 70% of the documents are in a fix. They are not very clear. Still, a lot of court cases are pending over the documents. This is one scenario. Now, what will happen? If the document gets washed away, or if the document gets into a fire, does it mean that I have lost the propertyship over the property? Or does it mean that I'm not the owner of a particular property? How to encounter this? We all know we are all digitized guys. We are living in the digital India era. So you may suggest that why should we hang on with the traditional ledger? Why don't we store all those ledgers into a digitized format? That is computerized format. Okay, I accept we are storing everything into a computerized format. Even then, can you guarantee me that nothing, no forgeries will happen? Is it, I mean, with the due respect to all government officers, the straightforward government officials, there are a lot of loopholes even today existing in the office where you can very easily peep in and change the documents. So even after converting them into digitized way, still you cannot call them as a safer one. So what is the solution? Today we are sitting here and talking about blockchain. What if we use blockchain as a solution? Okay, now imagine all our registrations or transactions, they are stored into the block and they are stored in a system. Now, what is the security we have how we have increased the security by using blockchain? You all know whenever a registered document is stored in the form of a transaction in the block, they are hashed now. When somebody tends to change the document, immediately the hash will get changed. Immediately you will know that something has gone in that particular block. So in this way, you can increase the level of security in the registered documents. Okay. Whether blockchain is the end solution for security? No. My dear friends, even after storing them in blockchain, there is a threat. I'll explain you this scenario. Now imagine I have a property in a very premium location of city. For example, let's imagine I have a 100 crore worth property in Boyes Garden. Probably from people from Chennai will know what is the value of Boyes Garden. It is a prime location. So in Boyes Garden, I have a bungalow or I have a flats, which is about the cost of 100 crores. If that is the value of the property, now imagine I have registered that in our register office where the documents are stored in the form of a blockchain. Now there is an intruder, there is an adversary who wants to take away the property from me. Now what he has to do? Now if he goes to the government office, it's so easy. He can bribe the people and he can get into the government office. Once he gets into the government office, what he can do is he can change that property name to his name. Okay, now what will happen? We have already seen if you change the data, the hash value of that current block will be changed. Now here, let's imagine my house titlement is in this block. Once he touches this block, once the attacker touches this block, it's quite obvious that the hash value of that block will be changed. We have already seen once the hash value of this block changes, this will be isolated from these blocks. Am I right? Because the previous hash value of this block will get changed. So it will get isolated from this block. So as the property value is very high, let's imagine he is taking up some 10 to 15 IT professionals with him. He is also taking 10 to 15 IT professionals with him. He is going to make them sit in this office, and now they are going to change the hash value of the blocks which have been created after this transaction, after the block which contains this transaction. Now people will be sitting and apparently changing the hash value of the subsequent blocks. Let's imagine some 100 blocks have been created after this property. They will sit calmly and they will change the hash value of each and every block, and subsequently they will change for 100 blocks. Is it not possible? So it throws a question again, is blockchain is also not safe? How do you add value for the security with respect to this scenario? Here where we are going to jump into another domain called distributed peer-to-peer network. Before getting into it, you can see there are different type of network available. Centralized network, from the diagram you can understand there will be a central authority, all will be connected to it. Decentralized network, it's more like a cluster form where you will have local leaders and different layers will be connected to it. This is what I'm talking about. Distributed peer-to-peer, no boss. Everybody will be taking part in the network. Everyone will have an equal access. Okay, now we will see how we can change the same scenario by using distributed P2P network. Before getting into the use case, I'll talk about the distributed P2P network. What is distributed P2P network? Let's imagine here in this scenario, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 nodes are available in this network. What we are going to do is, we are going to store the copy of blockchain. What we are creating in a one node will be replicated across all other participating nodes. Let's imagine this is the place. Let's imagine again a register office scenario. This is Chennai, this is Coimbatore, Tiruchi, Madurai, Tirunelveli, and Salem. Whatever registrations are happening across these nodes will be communicated to the subsequent nodes. So all these 6 members will be holding the same copy of the blockchain. That is the key here. With respect to the due delay in the internet, the updations will take place in all nodes which are participating in this blockchain. So now, I hope I have made you clear what is this distributed P2P network. And again, this for assumption, I'm saying that you can be register office, but in reality, anybody who wants to take part in the blockchain network can hold the copy of it. I'll say, because you may be wondering, how come I can store the register office documents in my laptop? You can still store them, because the characteristics of the distributed peer-to-peer and blockchain will prevent you from making any updates or changes to it. I'll show you how it is protected. Now you see, whenever a block is added in one particular place, it is subsequently added to all other participating nodes or all other copies of chain which are available across the nodes. Now this is how the block insertion takes place. Now coming back to the use case. Now we see this is the location where the original registration of my document has taken place. Now intruder is not aware that the blockchain is stored in the distributed network. He will come, again the same old example, he will come with 10 to 15 people in the sumo car, and he can barge into the office. He can start converting he can change the name of the document. By employing professionals, he can change the hash values of the subsequent block. Now what happens? There is a concept called auto correction or auto update. What happens here is, you can see here, once the blocks available in this chain alone will get changed. So all these nodes keep on communicating very frequently. They will cross check whether they are holding the same copy of the blockchain. In the due course of time, they understand that all other chain has a different copy of blocks. All other nodes has a different copy of blocks except for this block. So immediately what they do is, they automatically update their correct version of blocks to the affected block or affected node. I think you can get me. What they do is, they check, they understand that something has gone wrong with respect to this node, particularly from this part of the chain. So what they do is, they copy their own version to the affected node's block. So it is automatically corrected now. Now what is the solution? Now if someone wants to really change the document, what is the option? You may question me like, is there any chance for intruder to change in the distributed network? The only choice available to him is, with respect to blockchain functioning, it varies from network to network, but general network of blockchain advocates that if someone really wants to change the data, what he should do is, at the same instance, he has to change the copies of blocks available in more than 51% of the nodes participating in the network. For example, there are 6 nodes available in this network. So if I want to change any document, then at the same instance, I have to change above 3 nodes, that is 4 nodes. 51% is about 4 nodes, right? 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So at the same instance, if I am able to change the copy of the blocks in 4 available nodes, what is the time limit for them to change? Within 10 minutes. If they are able to successfully change the transaction which is part of 4 nodes at the same instance within 10 minutes, then there is a likely chance of changing the transaction. But my dear friends, it is not in real time. For toy example, I have taken 6 nodes. In real life scenarios, you will have some thousands of nodes, or 10,000 of nodes, or even lakhs of nodes can be connected to the blockchain. And most importantly, imagine for illustration, I said with respect to Tamil Nadu, a node may be there available in Chennai, another node may be available in Moscow, another node may be available in Washington, and another node may be available in Ottawa in Canada. So it is not possible for anybody to have a team across these global scenarios and go there, barge into the system and change the transaction. It is quite impossible. This is where we say this is a trusted system. This is where we say this is immutable. This is why we say blockchains are trustable. Any transaction in blockchain are trustable simply because if you implement this scheme, this is what the real protection mechanism, what we need in the blockchain scenario. I hope you can get me now. So what I'm trying to say is, you imagine a network. It need not be only globalized. You imagine a network, you are storing the test marks of your student in a PC. Rather than storing them in single place, you can store it in 3 or 4 places. Even it will help you to take the backup. Even the decentralized system, the another advantage of the distributed peer-to-peer network, even if one node crashes, the copy is available and it will get up and it will be running. That is the second advantage. Leave out all this attacking scenario. A genuine case where the employer or the concerned people who are handling the data, if they have made a mistake unknowingly, in place of, say for example, I used to write my name as BHALAJI, Balaji. I used to add that H. If the people who are inserting the data there, in place of, if they have missed the H and if they have written a common example of BALAJI, that's it. Even that mistake will be revert back by the same principle, because the blockchain will not sense whether it is an attack or not. Wherever there is a change in data, it will correct it, auto correct will happen and auto operations will happen and the correct format of the data will be returned. Kabilan, any questions now?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
And there is a question from Ms. Shilpu Das. Actually, I'm just answering for her through message. She has this question, sir, is it not possible to attack this distributed architecture? So, blockchain is secure for that. Am I right? Like
Yes.
that she asked.
I have answered it now. If you want to attack a distributed architecture, see again, this 51%, or it can be 33%, or it can be single node. It all depends on the way in which you create a network. See, again, blockchain networks, you have to design how you want your blockchain network to be designed. If you really want to have a shield of protection, you can go for distributed. It is not necessary that it should be only distributed. It can also be centralized. It can also be decentralized, or it can also be the combination of both. It is up to you to decide how your network should actually function. So when you take a traditional network, when you talk about distributed network, this is the shield which you have in your distributed network. Why I say you have to change the data within 10 minutes, because it is nothing to do with distributed network. The average time for a block to be inserted into a blockchain network is 10 minutes. So if you don't change the entire available block within 10 minutes, a new block will be added. So again, you have to change it. If you don't change within 10 minutes across different locations, another block will be added. So lifelong, you will not be able to enjoy the property. You will be sitting in the register office and you will be changing the blocks alone. That is the beauty of this distributed peer-to-peer network. Can you understand this? Shall I proceed, Kabilan?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, I mean, you get it. So this is the nature of distributed computing. And now we are going to another important part, that is mining. This mining has nothing to do with data mining. This mining is completely different. This mining, how it happens in a Bitcoin based blockchain is, see, mining doesn't happen in all blockchain examples. Mining is also an optional one. Please keep it in mind. I'm throwing you on mining because since if you're a beginner in blockchain, you can also know how actually mining happens. But it is not mandatory that mining should be part of any blockchain network. It can be or may not be. And for your information, Bitcoin mining is not banned in India. Still Bitcoin mining happens in India, but that requires huge amount of hardware resource and electricity. How mining happens? See, mining is a process where you are given a challenge to find out the target hash value. So how a target hash value will be found? You know, I said that whenever based on the previous hash and data, the current hash value will be generated. But in reality, the current hash value completely depends on the previous hash value. For example, if my previous hash value starts with the clue for us is the number of leading zero available in the previous hash value. For example, if the previous hash has 5 leading zero, then the current hash will also have 5 leading zero. If the previous hash has 18 leading zero, you all know hash value has 64 hexadecimal representation. So if previous hash has 18 leading zero, then your current hash will also have 18 leading zero. Okay, how to find that? So what is mining? Mining is, now a block will arrive in the blockchain network. Now you have to mine the block so as to add that block into the network. So I said about validation, right? The actual validation is a block will be validated only after mining. What is mining? Mining is the process where we try to insert the block into the network. How does the mining happens? Mining is a process of solving a cryptographic puzzle. What is that puzzle? That puzzle is nothing but you have to find the current hash value. How will you find the current hash value? By looking at the previous hash value. How do we iterate the values? So far we have seen the block consists of only data and previous hash. Now it is time for me to introduce another entity in the block, that is none other than nonce. You can see here a nonce value will be introduced into the block. What is this nonce? Number used only once. The range of the nonce value, they are completely 32-bit unsigned random numbers. So the range of the nonce value will be from 0 to 4 billion. Now, how are you going to iterate and find out the current hash value? You can see here, see in this illustration, this is wrong. When the previous hash value has 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros, here also it should start with 4 zeros. It is a wrong error one, please ignore it. So what we are going to do now is, we will be starting the mining process. By varying the nonce value randomly, you are supposed to find the current hash value. This is what mining is all about. When you mine in a Bitcoin world, you will be given an incentive. The current incentive for mining is 6.25 Bitcoin is the incentive for mining. So probably you can understand. So is this a too tough one? Yes, my dear friends, it's very tough, because there are large industries who are into this mining. They have huge resources with them. They keep on mining. So whoever mines first, they are the one who will be incentivized. For example, the option will be thrown open to all participants. Whoever wants to mine, they can mine. Any node participating in the blockchain network can mine. So when they mine, in reality, actually, block will be created. There was a question like, who creates the block? A participant in the network can create a block. Once he creates the block, if he wants to mine, he can mine. Otherwise, that block will be available in the network. The miner, whoever is interested in mining, they will take up that block, they will start mining. What do they do by mining? They will keep on iterating the nonce value from 0 to 4 billion. At one instance, at any instance, if they get the value which is lower than the previous hash value, or which is lower than the given target, then they are successful, they will be incentivized, and that respective block will be added to the blockchain. I'll show you here. This is how the nonce will be. I'll show you in the diagram. Yeah, you can see here, hash is a number, we all know that. So depending on the hash value, we are going to mine. So these are all this is the target. You can see here, this is the target, because the target is fixed based on the previous hash value. The previous hash value will be the target actually. I think there are 18 leading zeros, around 18 to 19 leading zeros here. So this is the target. If you find any value lesser than the target, then you are said to be, you are bound to be successful. If you find more than the target, then it is not accepted. You can see here, if there are 4 leading zero, you have to find the value with 4 leading zero. You can see this is how the iteration will take place. For nonce value 23, you are getting some value around here. This block is nothing but it represents the complete hash value. The largest possible hash value will be all F. The smallest possible hash value will be all 0. So you can see here, this is the target. So you will keep on iterating the nonce value because that is the only place where you can touch. You know, by now, you know you cannot touch the block header value because that is the header value by created default. You cannot touch the data because it is illegal. You are not supposed to touch the data. All these things are wrapped up. Only possible way or the only possible window for you to vary the value is this nonce. You will keep on varying the nonce value. You can see here, this is completely random. They don't follow any mathematical formula. They don't have any cryptographic value. They don't have any economic value attached to it. 23, it generates some value here. 21 lower than that. 22 lower than that. 140 is still lower. 76,941 gives you some value here. The correct hash value was given by nonce value 5012. So once you find that, you are declared to be the winner. You get the incentive of mining fees. So this is what mining is all about. So I hope I have made you clear what is mining. This is not again mandatory in all network. In Bitcoin or in mostly cryptocurrency based world, mining is very predominant. This is consensus algorithm. What is consensus algorithm? Whenever we say more than one party are participating, we need to come to a consensus. This is a typical two general problem. Imagine General 1 and General 2 are planning to attack the city and they want to confirm the attack on Monday morning. So they are planning to attack it on Monday morning. Let's imagine General 1 is sending a message through a messenger that let's attack on Monday morning. So now General 2 has to send the acknowledgement reply. He should also agree. The condition here is only if both of them attack at the same instance, same time, they will be able to capture the city. If they have a communication gap and if they launch the attack separately, then there is a likely chance that they may lose the battle. So now how will they come to a consensus? He is sending the message. He is sending the message to General 2. Now General 2 is supposed to acknowledge the message through some messenger. So he is saying that let's confirm the attack on Monday morning. So this is the typical scenario. Now see what happened. He is sending the message. Message is broken. Now General 2 will assume that, General 2 is unaware because he has not received the message. So this General 1 will be still waiting because General 2 has not acknowledged. Let's imagine another scenario. This message, attack on Monday morning, has been successfully delivered to General 2 and he has acknowledged. If the acknowledgement message is lost, then what will happen to General 1? General 1 will be still waiting to hear from the General 2. Even with respect to these two participants, there is a huge problem in synchronization or coming to a consensus. Then imagine thousands of nodes or lakhs of nodes or millions of nodes are taking part in any blockchain network. They should come to a consensus. You may be asking me, why should they come to a consensus? They have to come to a consensus whether to accept a block. For example, I said about mining. Mining is one process where is one sub-process of block insertion. After successfully mining a block, it is not guaranteed that that block will be added. After successful mining of the block, now the participant nodes in the blockchain should come to a consensus whether to accept this block or not. Before accepting a block, they will undergo a lot of filter checks, whether this is a valid block or whether this is being mined by the valid user of the blockchain, or whether it contains any malicious entities or transactions. All these things will be checked. And after that, they all should come to a consensus to accept the block. Only if the consensus is arrived, then that block is accepted. Otherwise, that block is not accepted. So like this, coming to a decision whether to accept a block or not, we have to run this consensus algorithm. Byzantine fault tolerance is also, again, due to time constraint, I'm not elaborating too much of Byzantine fault tolerance. I'll say you same scenario. Earlier case, we saw 2 general. Here it is a 4 general problem. 4 will be there. They are planning to take over this castle. The condition here is majority of them should have agreed for a common consensus. For example, 3 of them should agree. Then only they will be able to launch the attack. So if you look at the consensus Byzantine fault tolerance problem, from the fault tolerance you can understand what do you mean by a fault tolerance. Let's imagine 100 nodes are there. At what percentage of the faulty nodes the transactions will successfully happen? For example, if that network is able to perform correctly if 20% of the percentage of the nodes are faulty, then the fault tolerance level is 20%. If they are able to function successfully, if 50% of the nodes are faulty, then the fault tolerance level is 50%, and so on. Like this, here Byzantine fault tolerance advocates 1/3. If the faulty nodes are 1/3, then they will be able to successfully operate. That is, they can accept out of 100, they can accept 33% or 25% of the nodes. If they are faulty, then they will be able to operate. If it exceeds 1/3 or if it exceeds 1/4, for example, if 30% of the nodes are faulty, then Byzantine fault tolerance algorithm cannot guarantee you a successful transaction or successful consensus. So lot of consensus algorithms are available. If you are really involved in consensus with respect to blockchain research, there are 14 to 15 consensus algorithms are available. To name few: proof of work, proof of authority, proof of burn, proof of life, elapsed proof of time, proof of elapsed time, and proof of certificate, and so on. So a lot of proof of algorithms are available. You can explore and see. So here the condition is, that's what I said. If three of them, the one general with faded red color is the intruder, other three want to launch an attack, then they will launch the attack. The case, the point you should remember with respect to Byzantine fault tolerance is, even the commander may be an intruder. If he is an intruder, then what is the probability of attacking, launching the attack? So you can explore this. And consensus protocol. I said about consensus mechanism and why should we have a consensus. There are two important roles which are expected to be performed by consensus protocol. The one is, what happens when there is an attacker trying to add a node into the network. Earlier case scenario, we saw there was an intruder or an attacker who wants to take gain of the blockchain, or who wants to tamper the data for his own purpose. Now, how will we encounter if somebody is trying to insert a malicious block into the network? If somebody tries to change in between, we saw the immutability nature, it will not allow them. But if somebody wants to insert a malicious block into the network, how will we encounter that? So that is one use case scenario. The solution for that is, even after successful mining of the block, if somebody tries to insert a malicious block into the network, then it has to undergo lot of filter checks. It's not so easy, my dear friends. It will undergo lot of filter checks. Only if it passes through all these filter checks, it will be added to the network. Let's say if some node has tried to insert a malicious block, what will happen to that node? That node will be penalized. That will be prohibited from participating into the blockchain activities for quite some period. These are all the penalties for the node which tries to insert a malicious block. Second challenge, competing chain. This is not an attacker scenario. This is not a scenario where somebody is trying to insert a malicious block. You all know, by this time, you all know that blockchain is very big. Two people, one sitting in Delhi and another one sitting in Moscow, they are trying to add a block at the same time. How to encounter this scenario? They are not trying to add a malicious block. Both of them are genuine users and both of them want to add a genuine block into the network. How to encounter this scenario? This can be handled by consensus protocol by following the natural principle. The natural principle says that whoever has the strength, they are the winner. That's how the nature goes, right? Whoever has more strength, they will emerge as a winner. Likewise, here also, we follow the nature's phenomena. Whoever number of nodes will be declared as the winner. That will be retained and the other block will be left out. You can see here, the light brown color blocks have reached more number of nodes, whereas the purple color, which was originated from the Moscow, was able to reach only 2 nodes. In this scenario, this brown will be retained, that will be inserted into the chain. The purple color will be left out of the network. This is what we call them as this left out blocks are called as an orphan block. They will again go back to a area called a mempool. Mempool is the place where the transactions are stored in the blockchain. It's more like your cache memory. It will be stored. All the transactions will be stored in the mempool. Whenever a transaction is picked into the block, then only they will be taken out of the mempool. So this orphan block, what will happen? Again, these blocks will be dismantled. The transactions which were available in this block will go back to the mempool. So this is the role of a consensus protocol. You can see proof of work is dominantly used. This is what mining, whatever you do in mining, that is called proof of work. Whenever you find the successful target hash value, that is the validation of your proof of work. Ethereum protocol uses proof of stake. That is, proof of stake operates in a different way. That is, whoever has major stake in the blockchain will be the one who will be mining the block. So I'm not going deep into it. It's again altogether a different topic. So these are all the core concepts. Hereafter, I'll be just throwing you light on what are the different ways in which blockchain is leveraged in the real-time scenario. So blockchain structure, this is the structure of a blockchain. The use of party, this is the mathematical way of creating the ledger. So need for different type to enable cost effectiveness and quick turnaround. To reduce the redundant work and dependency on huge server, we go for a different type of network. You can look at this. There are three types of blockchain. One is public chain, which is very open. For example, public chain is something where anybody can participate into the public chain. For example, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dash, these are all the public chains. Private network, multi-chain block stack. For example, Joseph College or Tiruvallur University wants to create a private blockchain. They can create for themselves. The college can create a private.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Your audio is not.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
No. Yeah, no, it's audible, sir. For the past 6 seconds, audio is not available.
No, I'll go back.
Yeah.
Public chains.
No, sir. Still there is a lagging, sir. I think due to network issues.
Now, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, sir. No, sir. Some lagging delay in voice is
So public chain is.
hello.
I think internet connection is the problem.
Probably, sir.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Clear.
Public chain is where anybody can participate. You can see. Yeah, Bitcoin and Ethereum are common examples of public chain. Private chain is one which is created with respect to an organization or to a college. For example, any college can create their own private chain. The examples are multi-chain and Blockstack. Consortium is a combination of both private and public. For example, Anna University wants to create a blockchain among its affiliated college. Then they can create a consortium blockchain. Or Tiruvallur University can create a consortium blockchain where they can play more like a centralized role. All other participants will have a limited role to play. Blockchain framework, IBM blockchain, actually IBM. So blockchain frameworks, Ethereum Hyperledger Fabric, and if you want to know what is the software you want to start to learn blockchain, these are all the softwares which you can use. If you are a beginner, I would recommend you to start with any scripting language. If you are still a beginner, you can start with Python. If you know scripting language well, then you can go for JavaScript or Node.js, AngularJS, and so on. These are all extension to Chrome, and you can use testnets. Testnets you can generate.
Hello, sir. Your voice is not available. Once again. Hello. Hello. Dear participant, please hold on a line. He is facing some technical issue. He's just rejoining. Actually, he has not left the meeting, Mr. Karunanidhi sir. Actually, he has some trouble with net connectivity, so he'll be rejoining. Please wait. Oh.
Me now. Can you hear me now? Kablan, ipo kekda? Hello. Hello.
Okay.
Ipo kekda? Thank you. So, sorry for the technical interruption. Here, actually,
Sir, again, we can't hear your voice.
one minute, Kablan. Siddharma.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Ipo kekudunga, sir.
Okay. Hotspot pathita.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry for the interruption. I'll start. So, screen sharing is available, right, Kablan? Shall I continue?
Yeah, continue, sir. I will just. I mean, just made. Yeah, continue, sir.
Yeah, okay. So this is the platform which I was talking about. You can see here, these are all the different web utilities which you can use for learning blockchain. And I'll leave the slides, you can also refer them.
Sir,
Challenges.
sir, your slides is not visible, sir, actually. You haven't started the screen share.
Yeah, can you see me now?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
slides.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So these are all the security challenges which we have. Security is an important challenge. Even though blockchain seems to be very robust, still there are possibilities for security breaches which we can work upon. Privacy issue is always a huge concern in these kind of public networks. scalability is a very, very vital area of research which you can consider, because the major drawback of blockchain networks are scalability. And consensus algorithm also, people have started coming up with the hybrid consensus algorithm. So here also you can throw some light upon consensus algorithm, and you can also start working on it. So these are all the blockchain startups and companies. You can see here, starting from real estate, services, authorship, data management. These are all the different places where you will find the potential application of blockchain. Manufacturing unit, retail, media, everywhere the blockchain is being used. And this is what I was saying from the beginning. Even though blockchain came as an alternate for banking system, now it has spread its wings across all these domains, supply chain management and so on. This is further example. Apple, Facebook has recently released a cryptocurrency called Libra. Google, FedEx, Nestle, all Samsung, all these people have started leveraging blockchain in their different applications. And you can also see governments. Dubai government, Estonia uses blockchain. They have also implemented e-voting concept through blockchain. South Korea uses it. That's what Samsung is the major player. GovCoin is the coin which UK government is officially planning to release. Apart from this, we also have some Indian state governments which have started deploying blockchain. The first one to use blockchain in Indian states were Andhra Pradesh. During the regime of Chandrababu Naidu, they used blockchain for land registrations. They have used a smart contract. It is the concept of blockchain. They have used a smart contract for land registrations.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Sir, we are not hearing your audio. Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So, government of Maharashtra has started implementing, they have started storing their 10th and plus 2 certificates in blockchain. So when the students come for counseling, they need not to bring their 10th and plus 2 certificate. That will be stored in the blockchain, and from there they are able to retrieve and refer. And Tamil Nadu government, with respect to Tamil Nadu government has taken an initiative in name of blockchain, which they have named it as Nambike Inayam. So Nambike Inayam is the initiative of Tamil Nadu government. What they are doing is, it comes under the TNEGA, Tamil Nadu E-Governance Agency, where they are trying to build a common blockchain backbone which can be leveraged by different parties of government. For example, register office or universities or any other RTO, anybody can use this blockchain as a backbone, and they can develop their own applications. As a part of, we are very happy to say that as a part of Academity, Anna University and SSN College is member in that, and we are also working towards that. These are all some steps which you can explore if you want to learn blockchain. You have to you have to understand the core, then you have to see what are the enterprises who are into blockchain, and you have to look for some blockchain certification agencies, and then you can start working with your smaller project. This is the crux of what I have talked today. 3 types of blockchain, differences, how they work, notable consensus algorithm, and popular examples. And I am open to questions now.
Sir?
Kabilan, can you hear me now? 1 minute, Kabilan.
Sure, sir.
No. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So there are some questions the participants has thrown out in the chat boxes. Some questions I just answered if it is very basic. Okay, some questions I want to convey to you. First of all, everyone was very happy with the presentation, sir, because I mean, a lot of very good positive comment from their side. And there is one question raised by Mrs. Vishnupriya. She asked that in what way blockchain is different from cloud computing?
Cloud is completely different. Cloud is merely the place where you store the data.
Blockchain is not the place where you store the data. You can also retrieve, you can also track. For example, a supply chain tracking system, what you can do is, see, cloud can be used along with blockchain. What I'm trying to say is a very simple example. Let's imagine that I want to track the goods which are being transported from a location A to location B. With the help of, let's imagine we have deployed the RFID tag. Through that, I'll be able to track, through by using the blockchain network, I'll be able to track where it is going, from where it has originated, where it is now, and all those informations can be tracked by using the blockchain network. And for your information, diamond tracking is done through blockchain networks. So lot of tracking, because diamonds are very precious one, so they want to know from where it is originated, from with whom is it lying now, and so on. So you cannot equate cloud. Cloud is mere data storage platform. I mean, you can store the data in cloud, that's all. Here in blockchain, you can use it. For example, I say, if you are part of a college, let's imagine how can you use blockchain in your college scenario. Let's imagine every year college awards the best outgoing student. To do this, what we do, we send the application, we get the filled in application, we process, and we declare the winner. Instead of doing it, imagine if you are posting this application in a blockchain. What candidates can do is, they can upload their information. The concerned authority can validate it. So everyone will know who is leading now. Everyone will be aware whether who is going to be the winner. So in that way, you can eliminate the biasing system. Because usually people tend to say he was given a best outgoing student since he was close to the faculty or so. This can be eliminated once you start introducing this kind of transparency into the best outgoing student or a best faculty and so on. That is the beauty of this blockchain.
Okay, sir. And second question is asked by Mr. Dr. Karnanidhi. And you just recited about the concept of changing the hash code, okay, which leads to a discontinuity of the blockchain. And
Okay.
And in order to overcome that, we are just going for a distributed concept blockchain, okay, where the many copies, replicas will be stored, outspreaded, and if any change, we can get it back from that side. Okay, right. Now the question is, he asks that is possible in distributed blockchain concept. What is the solution for these kind of issues with centralized one?
See, centralized one, you are preferring the centralized one. That's why I said, you cannot ask me like there is a problem in, you cannot equate it with a centralized one and distributed one. In a centralized one, when you go for centralized, you are making a compromise. Or you are assuming that it is going to be safe. For example, Kabilan, let's take a mark entry system. Controller of examination will be the one, right? So they will be the one who will be holding it. So there are certain informations which, if you want to preserve them as a centralized one, you have to preserve it. There is no other protection mechanism if you go for centralized one. Only a mechanism what we can say is the additional security mechanisms. Save it by using password. Save it by using proper save the system, save the server. That is the only solution which we can propose if you go for a centralized one.
Okay, sir.
The context is different, right? This can be implemented only in distributed peer-to-peer system. If you go for centralized one, nobody can stop you. It is up to you, because if your context, if your demand is centralized one, you can go for it. See, there is always pros and cons for all this centralized, decentralized, and distributed system. We cannot eliminate that.
Yes, sir. And last question, that is many participants today asked questions about what are the potential research areas that we can start up our research in blockchain?
Okay. See, potential research area is, I said, you can think of using a alternate algorithm for SHA-256. In place of your SHA-256, you can come up with algorithms like, see, we contemplated a paper with one of my scholar. We wrote a paper where we have proposed a chameleon hash algorithm as a candidate for alternate candidate for SHA-256. Like this, you can also think of ring signatures, and quantum resistance is another upcoming area which you can think of how to use quantum resistance in blockchain. This is with respect to security. with respect to consensus algorithm, I already said some 14 to 15 consensus algorithms are already available. You can try to create some hybrid algorithms. For example, consensus algorithm usually goes in this way. Proof of work works in a way where the 51% of the mining power, hashing power, whoever holds 51% of the hashing power, they can dictate the blockchain network. For example, let's imagine that me and Kabilan they put together, we hold 51% of computing power in a blockchain network. Then we will be able to dictate what block should be mined next, what are the blocks which we need not to mine, and so on. So that is the characteristics of the proof of work. How can we eliminate this? Proof of stake says that whoever has highest stake in the network, they will be assigned the responsibility of the blockchain mining. Guys, you can work on the consensus algorithm. That is one area. Very important area is scalability. When we talk about the number of transactions with respect to financial application, it is far lower. These are all the areas where you can throw light upon. Any further questions, Kablan? Hello.
No, sir.
Do you have any questions from all this?
Hello, sir.
Hello. Yeah. Do you have any other questions?
No, sir. Actually, I haven't received any more questions because most of the questions you answered during the next slides itself. And some question has to be yet to answer. Just I marked out and I asked at the end of the session.
Okay, no problem.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I wanted to clear some points. So see, today I said that for single transaction a block will be created. No, in reality that is not the case. Usually a block is of size 1 MB and the average number of transactions per block will be around 2100 transactions. So these are all the things which I have to clear, because for understanding, since it is a beginner level lecture, I said a single transaction we can create a block. No, in reality for 2100 transactions they create a block. The average size of a block is 1 MB. That is the average size of a block. And I said about hashing, right? Mining, you will be finding the hash value. That hash value is also adjusted every 2 weeks or every 2016 blocks. Every 2016 block, that difficulty level will be adjusted. Otherwise, it will become too easy for people to just jump in and they can start changing it. And can you see my screen, Kabilan?
Yes, sir. And one more question from Mr. Senthil Kumar. That actually I didn't get the question. He is asking, how is blockchain and fintech related? Fintech related. That's why I said currency transaction is an ideal example where you can think of using blockchain. Not only that, your ledger maintenance can be completely ported to a blockchain. That is also a financial application. Actually, blockchain started as a fintech application. Slowly it started getting into other areas. I hope I have answered him. And this you can see here, you can see when I change the nonce, the hash value will be, it will change the color. So when I mine that, you can see, when I mine for a particular hash value, it will change its color. It will be green. Or if I want, sir, you haven't shared that particular screen, sir. It is in slider. Okay.
Now can you see this?
Yes, sir.
You can see here nonce value. So this is I'm mining it. It's already mined. The green color, the pale green color indicates it's mined. Otherwise we can mine. See, this is how the mining, the hashing operation operates. Here you can see it consists of 4 zeros, right? When I give some data, let's imagine again I'm typing the same thing. Today is Monday. I'm going to mine it. Let's wait. It will take some time. So what happens is, this is how the mining. See, you can see, Kabilan, I said about 4 zeros, right? It will also have the 4 leading zeros.
Yes, sir.
So this is how the mining actually happens. So this value, when here for demo, I'm clicking the mining. But actually what we have to do is, you can see here, the earlier nonce value was something around 7,000. This nonce value for, I mean, it is somewhere around 19,000, sorry, 1,98,000 or something. So
Okay.
this is how the nonce value, I mean, here for demo, I didn't vary the value. In real, what you have to do is, you have to keep on changing the nonce value. Once you get this 4 leading 0, you can stop it. That's how the nonce value actually operates.
Yes, sir.
Again,
And we need, I mean, the person who is winning the nonce is
that
the
is not
person who
legal.
is,
It is not allowed.
no, sir. What I'm asking is that the person who wins the mining is one who produces the least nonce value, right? Closer to that particular range.
Least, not least, whoever finds the first.
Yeah, first one.
Whoever, if you find zeros,
Okay.
you need other value. If you
Okay.
find 4 leading 0, then
Okay.
you are the winner. If I find it first, I am the winner.
Okay, sir.
And you can also see the blockchain. So this is how the chain will be generated. You can
Okay.
see here, type some value here, data. Hi. We have to mine each and every block.
Okay.
And all the previous block will be connected here. The previous hash value is 0. Now it's changed to 009. That will be equated here. Hello. I'm just typing something. Mine. You can see here the previous hash value was 0009. Sorry, the hash value of this block 1 was 0009. You can see the previous, the next block's previous hash value is 0009. If I change here, let's imagine I'm going to remove this high. Now what will happen? You can see the change in color, because since the previous value got changed, here also it will be changed. Actually, it should not change automatically. For demo, they have kept it.
Yes,
Once
sir.
if I mine, it will change.
Yeah.
So the
I
previous
mean,
value
and sir, and many of you asked this question, okay, and I'm just answering that way. Hope it is not correct, but it can be viewed as it is, okay. The blockchain concept is near equivalent to the linked list, where linking of the nodes, but here it is happening via the hash values.
No. Here, the linked list, it is replica of, I mean, it is similar to linked list,
Yeah,
but
that's
in
what I'm
linked
saying, sir. Yeah, it's just like similar. It's not equivalent. It is a replica. It's an, I mean, in better way we can say that it is an emulation of a blockchain. In that way we can
yes,
say
correct.
that.
So linked list, we don't have any cryptographic link. If there is a list, I mean, if there is an item, we connect it to the previous link, connect it to the previous node and to the next node without any cryptographic link. Here, establish a cryptographic link. That's what I'm showing you now. Data here, that link will get affected. You can.
Hello, sir. Your voice is not audible.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So if you mine here, it gets changed. This is an example.
Okay.
So I'm not going deep. This is distributed. You can see here, same copy is stored in tier A, tier B, and tier C. You can see there. If I change, if I update in one place, all places it will be updated. High. I'm just updating high and mining it. You can see here, the hash value will be changed. Everywhere it will be changed. Once we change everything, the copy will be copied in all tier A and tier B. I'm mining all the blocks. Yes. Now you can see this copy will be replicated everywhere, Kevin. 009, and once I mine here, it will be replicated.
Yes, sir. We are seeing that.
So something goes wrong in one block, the peer B and peer C will understand something has gone wrong in peer A, and they will copy the values. This is what
Sir.
I was talking about.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Questions available?
Sir? Sir, I didn't hear you.
Now,
No,
do
sir,
you have any
no.
other questions?
No question from this road. I mean, in fact, I'm in participant side, sir. Everything is answered.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So, can we hand over the session to the organizer, sir?
Yes.
Hello?
Can you please hand over them, Kevin?
Thank you, Mr. Thank you for the very good explanation.
Yeah.
And thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Sir.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Hello, madam. Madam? Jasmine, ma'am? Am I audible? Hello? Hello, madam?
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, ma'am. We are hearing echo, madam. You can better switch off the other equipments or speakers.
So that was a wonderful session.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, Dr. Balaji, for presenting the basics of blockchain technology. Thank you for sparing your precious time to be with us. I thank all the participants who have cooperated so far. Hope to meet you in further sessions. Kindly fill the feedback form and send us so that you will receive your certificates. I once again thank Dr. Balaji and Dr. Kabilan for sharing their information with us. Thank you, sirs.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, madam. Madam, shall I close the meeting?
Yes, sir, after 5 minutes because all are filling the feedback forms.
Okay,
So
then I will
after-
close the meeting around 12:30, madam. We'll give 10 minutes of time so that they can get some time. And many of them asked for the presentation, and sir will be providing
Okay.
the PDF form of the presentation to mail ID. I will just forward it to you. And the recordings also I will forward it to you.
Okay.
They are in
Okay,
need
sir.
of the presentation form, the PPT form, madam. So everyone asked about that in chat.
Okay,
I'll
sir.
share. You can share it with them.
Oh, sure, sir. Sure, sir.
And in case if they want to start learning, they can also start learning it from different Coursera, Udemy, and certification. Triple IT Hyderabad is offering you a certification in and upgrade is also offering you a certification in blockchain, and probably I recently took this certification, Kerala Blockchain Academy.
Participant, please make a note of that one. In case if you want to do some certification programs in blockchain, okay, you can better
And
go with that.
yeah, they can start because Kerala Blockchain Academy, it will cost you very less, whereas upgrade it is around 1 lakh. I would suggest it for students. For faculties, you can start learning it from Udemy, Coursera. Coursera has got a lot of courses. Udemy, the most of the content today was I took it when I learned it from Udemy. And other than that, the Blockchain Council, Blockchain Training Alliance, these are the different independent vendors who also provide blockchain certification. Apart from them, Simply Learn, Edureka, these are all the people who also offer blockchain certification around worth of 15,000 to 16,000. They also offer many blockchain certifications. So students, if you want to start doing something, you have to know at least one front-end language, one backend, one database. Then you will be able to get into the.
Hello? Sir. And there is information to the participants, and I hope that everyone got that form link for the feedback. Please provide your complete details and name correctly and your email ID correctly. Okay. So we are not taking up your email ID from the chat boxes. Instead of that, please fill those information in the Google form provided, so that in order to issue the certificates and their presentation will be easy for us. So enroll yourself in the feedback form and give the feedback, and your mail ID, your contact number, your name designation is very much important. That is mandatory. Please fill it up. Thanks for all for joining here. And thanks, sir. Balaji,
Thank
sir,
you.
thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, the Joseph College management for giving me this wonderful opportunity to give a talk on this blockchain. And I'll be always happy to share my knowledge with them. And particularly, that day when chairman called me and said that, we are helping the rural students. We all are started from rural. We have started our journey from rural. So we have this, we should give back to the people. And I'll be very happy to have a session in case if the students want me to have the same session in Tamil also. I'll be happy to give the session. So I once again thank the management for giving me this wonderful opportunity. Thank you, Kamla.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir, once again for your wonderful presentation. Thank you, Dr. Kabilan, for organizing the whole event. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.